Hey guys, this is Zach Libby of the Wolverine.com, and I was down in South Florida last month for the annual Battle Miami 7-on-7 tournament. If you're unfamiliar with the 7-on-7 circuit, club programs from around the country take part in the late winter and spring showcases as tools for recruits to receive extra on-field work in the offseason against formal competition. Down in South Florida, feature teams from Detroit, Tampa, Orlando, Southern California, Dallas Metroplex, Philadelphia, Tennessee, Jacksonville, New Jersey, Charlotte, and obviously Miami. Over 24 prospects with formal offers from Michigan were in attendance for the two-day tournament, as well as a 2025 commit, who's currently ranked in the top 30 among all sophomores, according to On3.com. In this video, we're going to be breaking down the 10 key Michigan targets who competed and the commit in Chris Ewald Jr. But before we dive into the video, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the Wolverine.com for just $29.99 until August 31st of this year. A subscription gives you premium recruiting and team intel on both football and basketball, as well as NIL, transfer portal, and much more. Again, just $29.99 until the start of the 2023 football season. So let's begin with 2025 top 100 quarterback Bryce Underwood out of Belleville High in Metro Detroit, who is less than 2 months off from his unofficial visit to Ohio State before the early signing period, where he picked up the offer after meeting with head coach Ryan Day personally. A return back to Michigan isn't set up right now, but the proximity to campus for Underwood means he can arrive anytime that he wants. Interest still persists in the Wolverines for Underwood after he took 2 game day visits in the fall last season and the news of Jim Harbaugh returning for next season. Up next is the lone verbal commit in 2025 class in 4-star cornerback Chris Ewald Jr. out of powerhouse Chaminade, Madonna. Ewald took every rep on both days of the tournament with DEFCON 1 at free safety. At his high school, the 6'1" and 170 pounder starts at every position in the secondary, but he'll primarily be slotted along the outside in college based on current frame, even on nickel packages if his weight progresses over these next 2 years. But Ewald displays the speed and technique to mirror any athletic wideout in the deep thirds. Never trailing an offensive playmaker when in stride, Ewald is able to change direction quickly to knock away attempted passes and has long arms to help extend his coverage radius. Accepting his verbal commitment this early was a no-brainer for Michigan back in December, as Ewald's raw talents are going to be sharpened even more underneath the direction of co-defensive coordinator Steve Clinkscale. The third target on the list is another Chaminade Madonna 4-star defensive back and rising junior Zaquan Patterson. There is enormous competition for Michigan to land Patterson from the likes of Georgia, Miami, and others. But the 6'1" and 185 pounder said that the Wolverines are a school in high consideration because of his recent visit to Michigan for the Penn State game alongside Ewald and his relationship with Steve Clinkscale. Ewald has told the Wolverine in prior interviews of his intentions to have Patterson commit to Michigan and will stay very active in making concerted pitches. Michigan wants Patterson in the secondary, and that's a big reason for why the team is still in contention. On the visit, Patterson talked in great detail about interacting with the fan base at the Big House and just watching a top 10 ranked matchup next to 110,000 plus people. Overall, the Wolverines are in good position to at least receive an official visit from Patterson in the late spring or early summer. The fourth is another quarterback in the 2025 class who's currently ranked number 4 nationally at his position in Lexington, Kentucky Christian Academy, Cutter Boley, who has been talks with new Michigan quarterbacks coach Kirk Campbell more than once since the announced hiring of the latter. Boley has shared his positivity from those conversations with the Wolverine and is also excited about the fact that his primary recruiter in Jim Harbaugh is back for the 2023 season. During the January contact period while the coaching staff was on the road visiting recruits, Boley caught up with Steve Clinkscale, whose son actually attends the rival Lexington school of Boley's. As one of the primary options at quarterback for the Wolverines in the 2025 class, Boley is eyeing a return this spring. We continue with National Players Academy as we talk about 2024 4-star nickel target Boo Carter out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Steve Clinkscale would visit Carter at his school during the contact period as the visit was nothing much more other than them checking up on each other and figuring out availability for Carter to make a return to campus. Carter is a little more than a month off his announced top 5 that have Michigan, Ohio State, Tennessee, Oregon, and Colorado in the running. Carter was last in Ann Arbor over Halloween weekend for the Michigan State game, with the Buffaloes recently hosting Carter right before the dead period, and was on Miami's campus the weekend of the tournament. Sometime in March would be the earliest in which Carter can schedule his next trip to Michigan, with upcoming official visits still being planned for the late spring and early summer. We go back to Belleville High as we discuss 2024 four-star linebacker Jeremiah Beasley. Nothing has changed in regards to a planned commitment date for Beasley on March 15th, which is his birthday. The idea of being locked in somewhere then was confirmed in late December when Beasley dropped the top 5 of Michigan, Tennessee, Pitt, Michigan State, and Kentucky. Another trip back to Tennessee is in the works, with nothing yet scheduled for Michigan and Michigan State. But with the two rivals so close to Beasley's home, he knows he can plan for either whenever he's available. Going back to Ann Arbor is going to happen because Beasley wants to get more extended time with the coaching staff, including Steve Klingscale and linebackers coach George Helo, the primary recruiters in this race. And as we know, Michigan just hired another defensive assistant and Chris Partridge earlier this week. So another assistant in this race will be much crucial in order for Michigan to land an in-state recruit. We're going to stay in the state of Michigan once again and reel in 2026 Detroit Cass Tech two-way star Corey Sadler Jr. The projected number 1 overall prospect in the 2026 class among all Michigan natives earned an invite to the All-American Bowl in San Antonio, Texas, after his strong performance at the tournament with Sound Mind, Sound Body. More people outside of the Midwest are now beginning to catch on to Sadler's talent, and more Power 5 offers have come in as well from the likes of Oklahoma, West Virginia, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Miami, Tennessee, and Arizona State. But showing high interest very early is paying off for Michigan, who brought Sadler to the Big House last fall for 2 game day visits. Communication with the Michigan staff increases every time Sadler visits, and it'll definitely stay that way as he gets older and makes more returns. Sadler is a must-land target for the Wolverines. At this point, he's probably arguably the very top target in 2026 right now. We now enter the Lone Star State in Texas with the 2024 top 60 prospect and electric wideout Aeryn Hampton, who on both days on the tournament, the former Texas commit was sporting Alabama gloves and an Alabama beanie. However, Hampton did say that there are other schools high on his list, as he'll enter the spring with his top 10 list that also includes Michigan. Hampton is growing communication with wide receivers coach Ron Bellamy and has known defensive line coach Mike Elston for a while on account for Elston's history of recruiting Texas. The Wolverines are showing a wanting of Hampton's deep threat ability, with the top 10 ranked prospect in his home state eyeing Ann Arbor as a potential spot for one of his official visits in the late spring. LSU, Nebraska, and still the Longhorns are among those pushing for Hampton. Going to the city of Philadelphia, as we discuss 2024 four-star cornerback Kenny Wosley, who is expected to release a top 5 soon, with the school standing out right now featuring Michigan, Nebraska, Penn State, Oregon, and others. Even though Wosley has yet to visit Ann Arbor since being offered back in April, he feels like an official visit in the spring is more than possible on account for Michigan's standard of winning these past 2 years, as well as his growing relationship with tight ends coach Grant Newsome, Steve Klingscale, and the connection to the program in 2023 linebacker signee Samaj Bridgman. Newsome is the primary recruiter for targets residing in Philadelphia and New Jersey, and has become a popular figure at Emotep Charter, which is where Kenny Wosley resides. Wosley also appreciates the sheer honesty from Klingscale whenever they speak, and could make a trip to Ann Arbor unofficially before he schedules official visits, should Michigan earn one. But he might just skip that part altogether and go straight to the official. We stay in the state of Pennsylvania once again to talk about number 1 ranked in-stater in the 2024 class in Quinton Martin. It's been nearly a year since Martin last visited Michigan, but he did mention the program as one of the 3 Midwest schools standing out right now, next to Ohio State and Penn State. The Nittany Lions have a rich history of recruiting success in their own backyard, obviously, but for the Wolverines to win the Big Ten in back-to-back years and consecutive college football playoff appearances is holding a ton of weight from Martin's perspective. Getting down to a select group of schools will be part of Martin's course of action this offseason, as the Wolverines have just hired a new primary recruiter for the area of Western Pennsylvania in Kirk Campbell, as he's the replacement for Matt Weiss, who was the former assistant responsible for prospects in Pittsburgh and its suburbs. Finally, we end the video with KJ Bolden, the 5-star safety out of powerhouse Buford High in Metro Atlanta. Michigan was inserted in Bolden's top 15 that was released on January 1st because of his relationships with Steve Klingsdale, defensive coordinator Jesse Minter, and Jim Harbaugh. Bolden felt like it was right to give the Wolverines a shot and closer look after being on campus in July for the annual barbecue at the Big House. Bolden, who is the number 4 overall rising junior in the country, arrived later than the original start time of the barbecue, he admitted, but he said as soon as he got to the stadium, 5 members of the Michigan staff greeted him at the gates. He felt like a priority to the school right from the get-go, and that was a big deal in his eyes. The Michigan staff recently stopped at Buford during the contact period, and Bolden believes his relationship with the coaches is getting closer because of how they've made their presence known at the school. Bolden's teammate and 2025 linebacker Montrez Walker actually visited campus last month before coming out with a top 4 list recently that included Michigan. The Wolverines are a heavy lean for Walker, who is set to be committing this Saturday, February 11th.